Good morning, everybody. My name is David Kaplan. I'm the adjutant of the Giles B. Cook, Post 53 of the American Legion, and master of today's ceremony. I would like to welcome everybody to this 2021 Veterans Day Observance. I'm privileged and honored to represent more than 750 members of the American Legion Post 53 extended family who are hosting today's event. We're committed to serving our military, their families, and our community. I want to thank everybody for taking the time out of your busy schedules this morning to attend this ceremony to recognize our veterans. I ask first for a moment of silence to honor the veterans who could not be here with us today. Ladies and gentlemen, 102 years ago at this exact moment, the guns and sounds of combat during World War I fell silent. This day was originally recognized as Armistice Day and was first observed on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month in 1919. Armistice Day was to commemorate the day and time when the armistice between the Western Allies and the Central Powers went into effect. In 1954, President Dwight D. Eisenhower changed the name of the holiday to Veterans Day to honor all who have served in the armed forces of the United States in all wars. In order to begin commemorating this Veterans Day, I ask that all please rise and remain standing as the Front Royal Police Department Honor Guard advances the colors and the bands from the Randolph-Macon Academy, Skyline High School, and Warren County High School play the Star Spangled Banner, which will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Forward! Forward!
And salute.
Detail! Halt! Ready! Fight! Ready! Halt!
Ready? 2. Please uncover and place your hand over your heart while joining me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance to recognize the flag that all have served under. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated.
Hail. Ready? 2.
I'm now going to call on the chaplain.
Wait. Forward. March.
I now call on the chaplain of the Giles B. Cook American Legion Post 53, Mr. Charlie Goddard, to lead us in the opening prayer.
Uncover. Heavenly Father, we are here today to pay respect to our veterans, the men and women who fought to protect our freedoms, the men and women who took an oath to defend the Constitution of the United States. Father, we pray for our leaders who also took the same oath. Grant them the courage to uphold the Constitution in its entirety, so that what the veterans fought for would not be in vain. Amen.
Next, I'm going to ask my own post's Sergeant at Arms, Mr. Layla Piplani, to conduct the Prisoner of War Missing in Action ceremony. An empty chair to recognize all POWs and MIAs is placed at all official meetings and functions of the American Legion as a physical symbol of the thousands of American POWs and MIAs still unaccounted for from all wars and conflicts involving the United States of America. This is a reminder for all of us to spare no effort to secure the release of any American prisoners from captivity, the repatriation of the remains of those who died bravely in defense of liberty, and a full accounting of those missing. The empty chair symbolizes that we have not forgotten them and that they will always have a seat at our tables and functions. When Francis Scott Key wrote the Star-Spangled Banner more than 200 years ago, he called America the land of the free and the home of the brave. Those words are just as true today as they were back then. Throughout this nation's history, America's soldiers, Marines, sailors, airmen, coasties, and our newest brothers and sisters, the Guardians, have bravely answered the call to defend our freedom and our way of life. They have aided our friends and allies and turned back numerous aggressors throughout history. We never can fully repay our debt of gratitude to the more than 650,000 American service members who have died in battle, or the 1.4 million who were wounded in action. One thing we can do is to recognize and thank the more than 25 million veterans who are living today. Our nation honors her sons and daughters who answered the call to defend a country they never knew and people they never met. Those words are from the Korean War Memorial. They apply equally to veterans from all wars. Our nation's veterans have helped maintain peace throughout the world. Our veterans have sacrificed sweat and blood to keep our foreign enemies confined to their own lands and our domestic enemies in hiding. Tomorrow's veterans will be asked to do the same. The price of freedom is high. We cannot afford to forget those willing to pay it. The great President Ronald Reagan once said, "Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction." We did not pass it to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on for them to do the same. Or one day we will spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it was like in the United States when men were free. Today, it is our privilege to say thank you to all of America's veterans, to let them know that we appreciate their service and honor them for their sacrifices. Today, we also celebrate America's veterans for keeping this nation the land of the free, and the home of the brave. At this time, I ask that all veterans please rise as you are able to do so that you may be recognized. If you are unable to rise or already risen, please raise your hand so you can be identified. I was going to ask for a round of applause, but you're already doing that. Thank you. Thank you to my fellow veterans for your service. You all may be seated. Being the adjutant of the Giles B. Cook American Legion Post 53, obviously trusted by my post commander to be the master of today's ceremony, I have the privilege of being able to provide some of my own remarks before we move on to the next part of our program. As you can see, I'm a younger veteran from the generation currently serving. Today also happens to be my birthday, but my birthday has never been about me since I became a veteran. It's always been about my fellow veterans. I want to thank my post commander for trusting in me to lead today's ceremony. That being said, I look to those veterans who came before me and want to thank them for their own sacrifices they have made, which made serving easier for me and my generation. Because of their sacrifices and advocacy, the older generation has made it possible to reduce the amount of sacrifice I've had to take during my time in the United States Marine Corps Infantry from 2002 to 2007, including a deployment to Fallujah, Iraq in 2006, and my time in the United States Army National Guard from 2008 through the current day, which includes an Afghanistan deployment in 2012. Their advocacy has made it easier for today's service members. During my deployments, I was able to access phone lines and internet to communicate with my family, something the previous generations could never do. I had better paying allowances than our previous generation of veterans. This helped ensure my family would not go into poverty because of my service. Without the older generation of veterans, I would not have been able to benefit from the tuition assistance program and the GI Bill, which helped pay for my education so that I could attain a Bachelor of Science in Psychology and a law degree, both of which are at George Mason University. Being able to finish education without any student loans or debts is a significant relief for anybody, especially myself. Better paying allowances, better communications, and education benefits meant I was able to serve with significantly less worry about what was happening at home or the financial future of my family. I was able to remain connected to my family and assist them from a distance, even if it was something as simple as ordering pizza to my house in Shenandoah Farms for my wife while I was deployed to Kabul, Afghanistan. My oldest daughter was less than a year old at the time I was deployed to Afghanistan. Through video, I was able to connect with her and begin building a strong father-daughter bond. All these benefits gained from my generation of service members by our older generation of veterans allowed me to focus on my mission and the welfare of my subordinate Marines and soldiers. Having less distractions while deployed obviously helps keep our service members safe. I could truly focus on keeping my troops alive and well so we could successfully complete our missions and return home in one piece. To the older generation of veterans, thank you for what you have given us younger veterans. It's appreciated more than you know. And no, I'm not done. Veterans are all one big interconnected family, whether they want to believe it or not. Put members of different services together, and we're going to squabble like siblings over who is better, who is the favorite, or who had it worse while serving. Our inter-service connection or competition was always friendly and in good fun. At the end of the day, we all had the same focus: get the mission done and bring everybody home in one piece. This concept extends to the older generation of veterans, passing down several of the warrior ethos: tough-mindedness, tireless motivation, and unceasing vigilance, a willingness to sacrifice your country, even your life if necessary, and a commitment. Even though we are here today to honor and celebrate our nation's veterans, I have something to ask of my fellow veterans. I ask our veterans to remain steadfast in their commitment to each other. Second, I ask that you consider joining our organizations, whether it be the American Legion or the Veterans of Foreign Wars, as you are able to. As the older generation passes the torch to my generation, We need to carry that torch and never let the light of freedom fall to the darkness of oppression. I ask that you continue to watch over our great nation and to find ways to serve that suit your unique skills and discipline. They are needed today more than you may even know. I ask that you remain committed to protecting American freedom in whatever way you're able to. The next part of my remarks is necessary because of some of the internal battles that veterans face within. This may sound a bit fatherly, but it is necessary given the internal challenges faced by many of my fellow veterans. There's going to be times when life will get hard. There's going to be times when you may want to quit. Just give me another day. That's all that I ask. We need you to stay around. We want you to stay around. Turmoil can be a chapter in your life, but it does not have to define you. This is a good message for anybody, to be honest. Stay committed to yourself and your inner strength. Our nation still needs you. Your families need you. If you need help, you have the rest of the veteran family to lean on. Just give me another day. Tomorrow will come. Come talk to any of us. We'll be there to walk with you. I want all of us to continue to march onward and upward to bigger and better things. Join together. We're much stronger together. I'm almost done. I got like 2 more paragraphs. To all the veterans here today, thank you for being my brothers and sisters in arms. I do love all of you. Please take care of each other. Please celebrate yourselves today on this Veterans Day. This is your day, so enjoy it. Thank you for being here with me to honor and celebrate all those who have served. And this next message is to the public. Thank you all for being here to celebrate with us. You are why we do what we do. I do have one last thing to ask of the public. If you remember what I said earlier, today is my birthday. It really is. The one thing I ask for from the public does not cost any money. Just thank a veteran for their service. That's all that I ask. That's the end of my remarks, but I do have the next section of the ceremony to go into. Normally, I would now say that I have the honor and privilege to introduce our very special guests, the Gold Star Mothers. These mothers have given the ultimate sacrifice to our nation, the loss of one or more of their own children in combat. If there are any Gold Star mothers in attendance this morning, please rise or raise your hand so that you may be recognized. All right, I don't see any in the crowd. However, I am going to ask everybody to share a moment of silence for the Gold Star mothers that are out there that are not physically present with us. Thank you. For the next part of our program, I'm now going to begin introducing guests so you can hear somebody other than me speaking. First, I'm going to introduce Mr. Jeff Cook, Commander of the Colonel Samuel R. Millar, Veterans of Foreign Wars, post-1860, for his remarks and to introduce his officers. Jeff, please come up to the podium.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Our gracious host, American Legion Post 53, the officers I have on board today, our quartermaster, Scott Simmons, our chaplain, Billy Adams. I don't see that I'm missing anybody. Oh, excuse me. I have trustee Rick Kinsey, and our junior vice, Dave Kaplan, double-hatted veteran. Round of applause, please. To you, our community, we thank you so much for being out here to celebrate this day with us. It's an honor to be amongst you and to represent the Veterans of Foreign Wars. Many of us also carry the same hat, or double hat, and we're also American Legion members. Our numbers across the board from both organizations are dwindling with age. I ask you, as Dave mentioned, if you're a vet, come talk to us. Help us represent and provide the community support back to the community of Front Royal and to our neighbors and even your own family members. There are many great programs set up. As Dave mentioned, Armistice Day was established originally in 1918, made official in 1919, in June of that year, and it was considered to be the war to end all wars. How ironic, because it wasn't just that war, it was 20 years later when Hitler became a tyrant and invaded Poland. So these conflicts continue to come to us, and those that have served know this well. I ask everybody here today, if you have a chance to meet a veteran, shake their hand. You don't necessarily need to thank them, but just give them a chat. Many of us are older or getting that way, and your time spent will serve you and them immensely. I thank you all for being here to support veterans. It is a great day. We're not out here freezing as in previous years, and I thank you very much. God bless you, and God bless America.
Thank you, Jeff. I'm now going to introduce some of our other honored guests that are with us participating in today's ceremony. As I introduce them, I'm just going to ask each of them to stand briefly and that you hold your applause until all of the guests are introduced. The first guest I'm going to introduce is Mr. Larry Thompson. He's an officer of Squadron 53, Sons of the American Legion. They are one of our supporting organizations to the American Legion. Larry is back there. Normally, I would also introduce Ms. Kathy Hartzell, the president of the Auxiliary Unit 53 for our post. She would normally be with us here, but she's currently back at the post, helping to prepare for the post for celebrations after the ceremony is completed here. I'm also going to introduce Mr. Jim Shepard, the Exalted Ruler from the Front Royal Elks, and Mr. Dennis Henline, the chairman of the Veterans Committee for the Elks. They're also here in attendance with us today. Let's please give our guests a round of applause. We have now come to the point of our program where I have the honor to introduce our guest speaker for today, Mr. Charles G. Mills, one of our longtime members of the American Legion, who has held various positions at the post, state, and national levels. Charles was born in Georgia with many ancestors on both sides of his family. He studied Latin and Greek at Yale. Following his military service, he received 2 law degrees, lectured 2 law school classes, and written 2 law review articles, one of which was used by the White House to prepare nominees for Senate confirmation hearings. He's published articles in several magazines and recently published 4 articles in the Northern Virginia Daily. Charles practiced law for over 50 years. He served for many years as the judge advocate for the American Legion Department of New York and as an assistant parliamentarian of the National Convention of the American Legion. He also served 1 term as chairman of the National American Legion Constitution and Bylaws Committee. Charles, I now ask you to please come up to the podium.
Fellow veterans, cadets standing out in the street, and ladies and gentlemen. When I was 4 years old, a 45-year struggle between the American-led West and the Russian-led communist world began. About 19 years later, the United States Army put me in the heart of this Cold War. Although this was a worldwide conflict, the main battlefield was Europe. In 1953, the potential use of nuclear weapons in the field artillery was introduced to the world. This destroyed the communist advantage in mass battlefield tactics. Alongside of this, it led to a rethinking of American strategy and preparation for brigades fighting on if other parts of their division was destroyed by a nuclear strike. This was the Army I entered in July 1962. John Kennedy was inaugurated as president in January 1961. His presidence and my military service were more or less simultaneous in a period of frequent crisis. He started with a terrible modification of our plans to liberate Cuba, denying airstraight to the Cuban patriots. The result was a humiliating defeat at the Bay of Pigs. Later he spoke to my college graduating class and was fairly coldly received. A few weeks after I went on active duty in the U.S. Army, I was in training. The Soviet Union put missiles in Cuba, triggering one of the many periods of extreme high readiness in the Army in that period. I was deployed to Germany in one of its divisional cavalry squadrons. While I was there, cavalry changed the main part of its equipment from jeeps to light armored three-man vehicles, making it much less vulnerable. Improvements in radar and night vision also made it much more effective. The Army in Germany, excluding Berlin, was about the equivalent of 6 divisions. Its mission was to slow the East Germans and Russians in the event of World War III. Nuclear artillery was a key part of the mission. The 3 armored cavalry regiments along the border with East Germany and Czechoslovakia had their own nuclear batteries. We were in the second line of defense, and we shared our post with an artillery battalion, an 8-inch howitzer battalion. The battalion was equipped with 8-inch howitzers that were about 1/3 larger than the 155 millimeter howitzer that is the mainstay of our nuclear field artillery today. There was a room in the basement of the building I slept in that was only open when barbed wire and machine guns were set up. There were lots of nuclear military shells under the parade ground in Fulda, which was between us and the border. Shortly before I got to Germany, a weapon known as the Davy Crockett was pulled out of Europe. It was a jeep-mounted nuclear weapon. The Germans hated being separate countries. There were signs along the German highways showing maps of pre-war Germany split among West Germany, East Germany, and Poland with the inscription, "3 countries, never." The closer we got to the border, the more friendly the Germans were. There was a German tailor with a shop in our barracks that specialized in sewing insignia on uniforms of recently arrived and recently promoted soldiers. This German soldier sometimes watched East German television. One of the crucial duties was getting word of any contact with Russian or East German troops that had invaded up and down the chain of command as quickly as possible. Preventing espionage was pretty difficult. The first source of information for the troops was often German barmaids. Under a treaty from the 1940s, the Soviet Union was allowed to have 50 officers and 50 drivers in the American zone. And the U.S. Army was allowed to have 50 officers and 50 drivers in East Germany. When I was, one of the majors in one of our majors in East Germany was killed. One of our sentinels once shot the tires out of a Soviet car speeding into the headquarters of my division. This borderline violation of the treaty, since only commissioned and non-commissioned officers and military police were allowed to use force against Soviet liaison officers. Once a year, the Army pulled an armored cavalry squadron back from the border, and my unit moved up to the border. As a member of squadron headquarters, I almost never went right up to the border, but once about a dozen of us headquarters types were taken up to a number of interesting places along the border with East Germany. The actual border is a few feet, sometimes more than a few feet, on the communist side of the actual border is on the American side of the communist set of large fences and the lineman that was the practical border. On one another occasion, I was deployed for 4 weeks to a small Air Force radar station somewhere very near the border, where I was able to listen to the radio descriptions for 6 hours every day of everything that was going on the border. During his trip to Germany, which he said, Ich bin ein Berliner, which was sort of unfortunate German, President Kennedy, we had a parade for President Kennedy. During my German service, he was assassinated. We once had some war games against the 2nd Armored Division, flown over from Texas for a 2-week period. We did extremely well in territory we knew, and they did not do well at all because they didn't know the territory. The Kennedy years were not good ones for America. Our eventual victory in the Cold War was never certain. There was no need, however, for the term popular in the Kennedy administration, qualite struggle. This was a demoralizing term, and it should never have come into the language. The extreme steps we had to take to make sure that the commanding general of the U.S. Army Europe could not respond in kind to a nuclear attack without an order from Washington were more hysteria than good planning. In June 1964, I finished my active duty and returned to America, where I became a county chairman of Beaufort Goldwater Miller in the 1964 presidential election. An important part of the Goldwater campaign was victory over rather than coexistence with communism. It would not be until 1982 when President Reagan stood where President Kennedy had said, Ich bin ein Berliner, and said the much more effective, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. That led to our victory over rather than coexistence with communism that we struggled for in Germany 20 years or so earlier, which is achieved largely due to the strategies of the Reagan era. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Charles, for your remarks and for participating along with us and representing the post very well. Ladies and gentlemen, we have now come to the solemn part of our ceremony where each of the organizations present will lay a ceremonial wreath at the war memorials to honor the deceased. I asked all the veterans to rise as they are able to render hand and salute during the playing of taps. So don't salute until tap starts. Civilians, I ask that you remove your head covers and hold your right hand over your heart during the playing of taps. Will each of the organizations present please rise and place the ceremonial wreaths and remain at the monuments while taps and a moment of silence is completed. With the ceremonial wreaths in place, I ask that the bugler now begin to play taps. Ready? 2. I ask now that we have another moment of silence for our deceased veterans. Please uncover. Please remain uncovered. I ask that the post-53 chaplain, Mr. Charlie Goddard, please come to the podium for the benediction and closing prayer.
Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you at the close of this ceremony, thanking you for granting those veterans the right to extend our life and to remember the ones who gave the ultimate. Grant each and every one of us peace, tranquility, and bless this great nation, and bless each and every one of us. This we ask in your name. Amen.
Thank you, Charlie. Ladies and gentlemen, I ask you to rise one more time as the Front Royal Police Department Honor Guard retrieves the colors. And salute.
Detail. Retrieve. Halt. Right. Right. Forward. Halt. Forward. March.
Ready? 2. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes today's Veterans Day ceremony. Thank you all for attending and honoring our veterans. Everyone here is invited to come to Post 53 for an open house reception. For those that do not know, Post 53 is located at 22 West 8th Street in Front Royal. The reception is going to be in the upstairs banquet hall. To the bands out there, thank you very much for playing, and to everybody else who supported us today. Hopefully we'll see you there at our open house. Thank you all.
Well, Skip, we know you're in an organization here, Able Forces. Tell us a little about that and the veterans that you serve.
Yeah, Able Forces Foundation, Mike, has been in town here since 2009. It's a charity that takes care of military families and veterans in immediate financial crisis. So we take care of things like electric and water, housing when needed. We just do a variety of things to help take care of just immediate issues in a service member's or veteran's life.
Our veteran family sticks together.
Well, you know, it's a funny thing. We are a brotherhood or a sisterhood. It is a club, if you will. Anytime I see a veteran or a veteran's hat, there's always a connection, Mike. So it's a very special thing to be a part of this.
Appreciate that, and I know that I see standing next to you here is Malcolm Barr.
Yeah.
Malcolm is real active in the Memorial Day and the Dogs of War. So, and we will see you in May.
Which is why I bring the dog down with me. She comes down every year, and in addition to, of course, being at the Memorial Day ceremony, and we're looking forward to that next year when we have a special memorial at the animal shelter.
Well, we appreciate all the work you gentlemen do in our community and for supporting our veterans throughout the world.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.